So remembering that attacks are ways to compromise the system, probably the most important thing you can remember from hacking the target is that all access is success. Anything you get, whether it's a low privileged user, random service account, no matter what kind of attack you've got, if it's a success, it's actually going to help us in future attacks. When we stand back and look at attacking or hacking the target, ultimately what is most important to remember is that any access, any compromise, any leverage at all is a success. So certainly it would be great if the first thing we did was hack a domain administrator's account or a system owner's account or a chief executive's account. That would be fantastic. However, that's not often the case. More frequently, it's attacking a low-level service account or an unprivileged user account or even a local system account that has nothing to do with network credentials or network access. Well, all of those are success. Some of them are both the beginning and the end of our attack, and certainly some of them are just the beginning, but any of them allow us to get into a system and then expand our control, expand the hack, attack different systems, attack different services, look at different data, and so forth. These attacks are all cumulative, so any success at all is going to help in the overall process. And even a lot of failures, as you'll see, actually do help the process, because a failure is simply something that we tick off, that we catalog, that we document, that in the end, when we deliver our report, the folks that want our report will want to know what did defeat us or what did stop the ethical hacking process and what didn't stop it. So all of that, both successes and failures, are all critical to hacking the target. And as well as being able to have successes, failures, build on successes, and so forth, it's important to remember that when we're doing these attacks, we can actually help prioritize the attack based on the information we already have. So in earlier videos, you saw information about building a nefarious network attack and footprinting and enumeration, approaches like that to understand what the network is built on, who has access, who doesn't have access. Well, all of that plays in here when we have to decide who are we going to attack first, or who are we going to spend the most time attacking. If all passwords, let's say, are difficult to crack, we don't want to be cracking a password for an unprivileged user if it's going to be roughly the same level of difficulty to crack the enterprise administrator password. At the same time, we do want to build our attack based on the easiest wins first. So if we know from footprinting that some accounts have long-lived passwords, or some types of access is easier to get than others, we want to bring our strength against weakness, and we want to get the easiest wins first. Both for the fact that we can leverage those in future attacks, and also, to be honest, it's a little demoralizing to spend a week getting all failures. It's great to have some successes up front. It helps to energize the process, and it helps to keep everything rolling so that the attack actually will eventually succeed. And I'm telling you for sure that any success is buildable and can be rolled into an overall success for the process. Also, we want to ensure that the attacks that we're conducting are prioritized based on the ones that are not likely to be detected. So logging in with account X or Y or Z, some of those accounts may be monitored closely and trigger alarms when they're used for interactive login or used for process access, versus some will not. So based on our footprinting and based on our attack process, we want to make sure that we prioritize the ones that are not going to set off alarms and the ones that are going to hopefully get us access immediately. We want to set those up first, but eventually we're just going to wind up attacking everything. As we think about hacking the target, it's important to remember why we're doing this in the first place. It's not just to have fun, which it actually is kind of fun, but it's also to ensure that we're accessing the target data, the target systems. We're getting access to the stuff we need to get access to, no matter what it is. We're getting more and more control until eventually we get full control of the target environment, whether that's a single server, an entire cluster, a domain, an enterprise, the firewall, the proxy server, the VPN, the target database that has all of our secret account information, whatever it is. The goals all build towards as much control as possible on the target systems or environment or resources. And as well, while we're hacking towards a goal, we want to try to ensure that these attacks are repeatable, or at least the re-entry process is repeatable. So once we get to the target, one of the first things we're going to do is ensure that we can get back in to the target without being detected. We want to cover our tracks from this attack, and we want to facilitate future stealth attacks. And a word on stealth there is that we want to not alert the target to the attack. Obviously, that goes without saying almost at this point. But we want to ensure that we stay within our scope and our boundaries that we've defined early on. When we're attacking, when we're actually doing hacks, especially with things like password cracks and keyboard sniffs, it's important to remember that there's only some data we want to access. There's only some resources we want to access. So hacking accounts that have nothing to do with our scope and boundaries, that's really bad. We want to avoid that at all costs because it's an easy way to break out of our scope and actually potentially get in trouble, certainly violate our contract and our agreement, and that's not a good thing as well. The ethical hacker needs to be mindful constantly of this attack could possibly do this kind of access or gain me that kind of privilege, and that's what I need or what I don't need. If there's some question about whether you need domain access or whether you need to install a keyboard sniffer on the CSO's system, those are questions for the umpire or referee or the decision maker who can actually make those kind of calls and say, yeah, that sounds like it's within scope, or no, that doesn't sound like it's within scope. If it's not already defined, get a call before you start hacking. Because this is the part of the process where we actually go a little bit more active and aggressive with our penetration tests and our attacks, I want to make sure that we're mindful of stealth here. The primary goal is to ensure that the attack continues until it's successful. And if the target knows that the attack is going on, it's not going to be successful. There's virtually no penetration test, no ethical hacking process where it's okay to set off alarms or tell the admins, hey, look, I'm over here cracking this password or over here attacking this account or this segment of the network. That's almost never okay. So an important goal is to not alert the target. However, it is sometimes necessary to potentially trigger alarms or potentially set off some type of warnings. So if stealth is not possible based on the attack that we're conducting here, it's really important to not allow that attack to get traced back to you or to trace back to the ethical hacking process. So hiding the source of the attack, hiding the identity of the attacker, that would be you, hiding which systems are attacking and which systems are being attacked and so forth, is also critical. And sometimes it's actually a lot easier to do and sometimes it's a lot harder. And I'll show you examples of that throughout this video where it is easy to actually hide tracks. Like, for example, a keyboard sniffing device, a physical device. It's pretty easy to actually just get that lost and not have any trace back to an ethical hacker versus conducting a sniffing attack or a denial of service attack from a specific system that's connected in a spot where it sets off alarms while the attack is happening. It only takes an admin a couple of moments to walk over to where you are and actually point their finger and say, look, I found you, you're attacking the system, and it's over.